Thank you for joining us here on MTV Sports. This is Good Morning Sri Lanka. It's been 2 weeks of hard grind though for the schoolboys, especially in the A division of the league championship, and today is going to be the big day. Today's games will then decide the match between Royal and Isipatana would decide who is going to take the coveted title. Look, Royal is in contention, so is Trinity College Kandy, and of course Isipatana. To talk us through though, and a little bit more about rugby and how it goes, I do have with me Shanaka Amarasinghe. Shanaka, real pleasure having you. I know you're just going through a bit of a flu content, I reckon. But basically, very important game, isn't it, between Royal and Isipatana today?
Yeah, great to be back with you, Brian, back where you belong. But it's a great game today between Royal and Isipatana because Royal are still in contention for the league. Isipatana have launched a protest against their match against Vidyartha, which if they win that, then they might also be in contention for the league. But Trinity are the front runners. They play DS tomorrow. I'm assuming that they're going to run up a massive amount of tries in that game. So they are pretty much still the front runners for the league because Isipatana just might have a chance over Royal today. I think they might end up winning that game.
Right, let's get back to the league a little bit later, but first things first. I mean, Royal Trinity, the first leg Bradby, in fact, Royal came out as favourites, unblemished record, beating St. Peter's, while Trinity had a bit of a rub-off against the Peterites. But is it fair for me to say that Trinity looked the better outfit?
Well, I think at the end of the game, it did, Brian, because for a lot of that game, it was very close. It was 13-8 for a long time, and the 13 points that Trinity scored earlier were some very good opportunistic points that they scored. A lovely drop goal from Tarendra Ratwat, a penalty put over, and then they had a breakaway try against a run of play. So it was much closer than the 34-11 points total at the end of the game would suggest. But Trinity, I think, always knew that if they stayed in this for 60 minutes, then the balance 20 minutes was going to be theirs. So that's the way it did turn out. Unfortunately, there were other events also that influenced the game, if we can use that word. But I think the fact is that Trinity were a little bit better outside than Royal were on that day.
Yes, it's amazing that Royal did have more possession. If you notice, the lineouts were won by the Royalists, but they could not penetrate into the Trinity defence, despite the fact that the Royalists did have a heavier pack. Many were of the view that Royal would just play the grinding game. You reckon they went wrong somewhere there, or what?
Well, when you have a grinding game, Shaq, like England did in the 2003 World Cup, for instance, they had a massive forward pack. But you have to have a guy who's at number 10, that is your fly half, who can really control the game, kick to your corners, and make sure you get points on the board. Because it's okay to grind as much as you like, but you're not going to be able to grind from your 22 to the try line. You're not going to be able to score tries against good teams like Trinity by just grinding. So you have to have a guy who can kick the points. Arshad Jamaldeen is injured, so he's not kicking the points. He's not kicking out of hand. So if you're playing 10-man rugby, you can't play 10-man rugby with only 8 men. So that's the problem that Royal had. And I think Trinity were a little too good on their fringe defence. They weren't committing as many to the rucks as St. Peter's were. St. Peter's were committing maybe 10, 12 to the rucks sometimes. There was nobody outside. Trinity were physically strong enough not to have to do that, and Royal didn't have a game plan to counter that. So when the ball went out to Rimzi Jamaldeen, he was caught isolated in possession, and a lot of the tries were scored from turnover ball in that situation.
32-11 is the scoreline. Now, you watched a lot of school rugby. I'm sure that you enjoy this game, but do you reckon that Trinity is turning out to be, or is the best outfit that you've seen so far in this year's league?
In this year's league, it's difficult to argue against that, Brian. I think if Royal were injury-free, they would have been up there as well. And Isipatana really impressed me against Trinity. I thought they were unlucky to lose that game in the way they did. And they've been peaking at the right time, but they had a very slow start to the season. So all these three teams, I think, are very, very good teams. Science College also, despite not having some big names, have some awesome players in that lineup. So it would be probably unfair to say that Trinity are way ahead. They are ahead. I think they're the most complete team. They have some good ball runners, some good big boys, some good attack and defense three quarters. They've got a nice fly half in Tarendra Ratwat, who I have a lot of time for, and Sanjay Somasari in that halves combination as well. So completely, as a complete outfit, I would say Trinity is probably the best.
It was a great game. I mean, I did not have the opportunity like what Shanaka did have to go there in person to watch the game because there were limited tickets available. But just take a look at what happened last week. This is Royal Trinity, the first leg. It's amazing. Well, like you said, we're just having limited visuals. You spoke about the powerful run, is it? The Trinitians really run that ball very powerfully.
Yeah, now that's the first try that was scored by Udalagama, Brian. That really broke the back of the Royalists because Royal were on attack, and it was a nice kick through, again off turnover ball by Somasiri, and Udalagama, it's a lovely run there again by Madena, who I thought had an outstanding game for Trinity that day. But that really broke the back of the Royalists, and at 13-8 or at 13-0, Royal had to come back. They came back to 13-8, and that's when things went a little pear-shaped, and the second half belonged to Trinity.
There we are. That's the crowd that's really cheering the two teams on. It's traditional, it's rich in history, but I'll come back to Shanaka about something that did take place in this encounter. The Trinitians enjoying themselves after this glorious win. Mind you, taking the first leg by 32 points to 11. Right, there was so much criticism on the referee. Now, talking to some of the rugby fans, they felt 54 times they were penalized. That's both teams, and they felt that was a little too much for a schoolboys game. What do you reckon?
Brian, I don't know who the fans are that you've been talking to, but I've got my stats from Mr. Vimal Pereira, who is the referee assessor and referee coach for the Sri Lanka Rugby Referee Society, and he told me there were 24 penalties in that game, 17 of them which came at the ruck and maul, and the rest of them which came at the scrum or the line out. So 24 penalties is not a huge amount in a school's rugby game. As he pointed out to me, at the Junior World Championships, that's all the big teams playing in the world, there's only been an average of 21 penalties, and they are playing rugby at a much higher level than we are playing here. So 24 I don't think is a massive number, but again, Brian, I don't know where people were for the last 2 months or so. Sri Lankan schools rugby, unfortunately, is replete with penalties. That is A, because the referees keep blowing everything they possibly can, and B, because the skill levels of Sri Lankan schoolboys are not good enough for them to allow flowing rugby. C, the boys are not disciplined enough sometimes to make sure that they are not conceding these penalties, and D, which is I think not the issue in this game, but the coaches are also not sometimes up to date enough to make sure that the boys are not infringing, which is definitely not something that Trinity and Royal have a problem with.
Useful thoughts, very useful thoughts indeed. Right, now let's take a look at the all-important league table, and we'll have Shanaka talk us through that. Who is going to win the coveted trophy for the year 2012? There we go. Trinity College, Shanaka, I mean, just talk us through that points table.
Yeah, we've got Trinity College right on top, Brian, because they're the ones who scored the most points and got the most bonus points. They've hammered a lot of the teams that they've come up against. Royal College was sitting pretty until last week, and with their loss, they've dropped to second place. Isipatana College versus Royal College, that's the game this evening, and that's going to be a classic match for sure, because Isipatana Royal has traditionally been a hard-fought affair. It's been something that is played for pride, and Isipatana almost bring their A+ game when they play against Royal College. So we're going to move to 9 in that first column at the end of today, and one of those teams is either going to move to 8 or stay at 7 and move up to 7. So we are going to have potentially Royal and Isipatana having won the same amount of games at the end of today's game. So Trinity College will still be the front runner. So that's something that we need to make sure we keep our eyes on as well, because if Royal lose today and concede a bonus point to Isipatana, then we're going to have a situation where that Isipatana protest against Vidyartha is going to be a massive issue again, because then Isipatana will move up from 7 games won to 8 games won, which is the same as Trinity will end up if they beat DS tomorrow.
Very tricky scenario. Now then, look, Isipatana has protested, right? Isipatana has protested. Just in case the protest is upheld, then there's going to be a bit of a problem. I mean, from my viewpoint, I think there'll be confusion at the top. What do you reckon?
There'll be absolute chaos, Brian, because the tournament rules are vague, to say the least. And if a team is found playing ineligible players, then are they disqualified from the entire league? Is that match declared null and void and the win awarded to the other team? What about the other games that that team have played? For instance, Trinity hammered Vidyartha by 50 odd points. I think they scored 60 points in that game.
62 points.
60
to no
points,
score,
yeah. So all those points going to be taken away from Trinity, and those bonus points as well. Now, those are the things, the repercussions of this protest and the outcome of this protest that we're going to have to look at before Trinity are crowned, or Isipathana are crowned, or Royal are crowned, or whoever are crowned as league champions. So it's not going to be an easy task for the Schools Rugby Association.
So Trinity have a strong point, right? They can turn around and say, look, when we played Isipathana, there were no illegal players, as claimed by Isipathana. Then where does one head to?
Vidyartha, actually.
I'm sorry, Vidyartha, my apologies.
So that's something that the tournament is going to have to consider. I wouldn't envy being in the shoes of the tournament committee right now.
Shanaka, thank you very much indeed. Real pleasure talking to you. I wish I had more time talking to a personality like you, but let me just remind you that I'll be having a little bit more chit-chats, not only on rugby, but also we do have the Pakistanis here, and we are going to have some great cricket over the next month.
Pleasure to be here, Brian.
Right, what we'll do right now, though, is stay with us. We'll just take a short break. Get back to you in just a moment.